Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Danielle. Yes, I made the title triggering, but what I want us to understand is that in the terms of not everything is about race, right? In order to really improve your life and really get yourself to a place where you are truly committed to yourself and truly committed to your own happiness and well-being and even your own level up, you have to free yourself of a lot of things that are holding you back, right? And I think a lot of us have circumstances that we like to point fingers at. And listen, yes, things happen to us. Yes, some of us have crappy childhoods. Yes, we all suffer from some kind of trauma in one way or the other, right? But if you want to improve, we have to understand, and this is not, you know, me trying to stand on a soapbox and wag my finger. No, this is something that it took me a while to learn, longer than I would like to admit. But as soon as I freed myself from certain shackles and certain mindsets, like the freedom consumed me, and it was like a feeling that I had never experienced before. And I think it's very important for us to understand the difference between letting something go and pretending that something doesn't exist. So for an example, something like race, right? So as Black people, as people of color or whatever, you know, a lot of people we're used to this certain victimhood mentality, right? As much as as much as people may have been victimized at some point, we have to realize that there comes a point in time in every one of our lives where you can choose to go left or you can choose to go right. Whichever journey, you know, that's not to say left or right is better, but whichever road you choose, you have to know that that was a choice that you made, right? So many things happen to us as children, and that was totally out of our control. When you are a child, you don't have the ability to take care of yourself. You know, you are hopefully born to parents who do their absolute best to provide you with a good life. But as we know, many parents aren't equipped to even do that. And sometimes the best we can, the best you can, is not good enough. Right? And so when we get to a place, when you really get to a different mindset and even a selfishness mindset, you start to see the world differently, right? When you become selfish with your own time, with your own energy and everything, you start to understand why other people in the world move the way they move. You remove yourself from victimhood. We're in a system of white supremacy. We're in a system, we are in a time and space where many things, where the system is deeply rooted in race, and we just happen to be on the butt end of the hierarchy, right? As in terms of racial benefits or lack thereof. You can admit that and still understand that not everything is about race. Everyone struggle. The same way you had no choice in being born the race that you are, neither did other people. Neither did anyone on this planet. And when you learn how to move to only in ways that benefit you, moving in ways that only benefit you, it doesn't necessarily mean harm to other people. Sometimes it might. But it harming other people versus harm to you, which one are you gonna choose? Especially in a world where everyone is choosing themselves. It's called survival. It's literally the law of nature. We really have to let go of certain things in a way that we can, that's conducive to bettering ourselves, right? And so in the conversation of race, it's never conducive. My brother used to try to tell me this all the time, and I just, you know, it's difficult when you don't get it. When the light bulb didn't click and you simply don't get it, it's very difficult to put yourself in a different mindset, in a different space. And my brother used to try to tell me this for a couple years, but I was so busy being pro, you know, fight the power, that I wasn't really listening. And it wasn't until he left this world that I really started to get the information and to understand. And so sometimes we use people as a crutch, you know, and when those people are removed and we can like literally no longer use them as a crutch, then we have to grow ourselves and we have to learn. My brother used to tell me all the time, you know, you sit around angry and wanting to argue with white people, but what is that gonna do for you? Even if you're right. Even if you're right, what is that gonna do for you, right? Because just like you have blinders on about certain things, so do non-black people, so do white people, right? You can't expect people to understand things that they don't understand. And if you think screaming and yelling and all of that kind of stuff is going to get them to understand, it's not. And so what does it benefit you? And so that's a question that will change your life. How will this benefit me? Is this helpful? Is this going to do anything to put me in a place that I want to be in? Right? Because a lot of us consume ourselves with issues of deflection on everyone else. And like I said, these things can be true, right? So a lot of things, personally for me, a lot of things contributed to me being overweight, right? I had childhood experiences early on from my own parents that kind of put me in a situation where I started having an unhealthy relationship with food, right? So in my particular situation, you know, I would, you know, try to not eat in front of anyone. So that became the habit that I chose. You know, once I started gaining weight and my parents saw that it was a problem, and they tried their best to correct it, right? But it was traumatizing for me, the methods that they chose. It was something with like hunger and something with food. You know, it's like food is still something that you have to have, but they pointed out a problem, but they didn't have the tools to teach me what was good to eat, what was bad to eat, what's an acceptable quantity to eat, right? We grew up in homes where you had to finish your plate and you would sit at the table until you were done. That contributed to it. You know, that the kind of trauma of them trying to force me to lose weight contributed to it. I chose to basically start eating in secret, right? And so it really takes a lot of self-reflection to get to a place where you are in control of your life and you're no longer a victim. But you can do one or two things. You can continue to be a victim and continue to, you know, acknowledge all the things and talk about and bring up all the things that hurt you and that contributed and how this person did this to me. Or you can acknowledge those things. You can let them go. Not for them, not forgiving people for their benefit, forgiving them for your benefit so that you can move on. Because in order to create a great life for yourself, you have to move on to truly create a healthy life, not to sweep things under the rug, because they still show up in different forms, like being overweight, like being unhealthy and stress and sicknesses and anger and alcoholism and drug abuse and substance abuse of all kinds. I started not eating in front of people, right? That was my coping mechanism. I didn't have the tools to really know what it took to lose weight and keep it off. So I was like, you know what? Well, if nobody sees me eating, then it doesn't count, right? That was the start of an entire rewiring process in my mind that was very unhealthy. And this can apply to so many different things, whether it's a toxic relationship or a toxic relationship with, you know, alcohol or a man or family, whatever. It can be it can apply to any situation, right? Because life is a series of choices, in my opinion. And every choice that we make, life is not fair, right? Repeat that, understand that, so that you can move on and stop expecting life to be fair. Stop expecting people to be nice to you and to give you everything you need to have a happy life, including your parents, because your parents are humans who probably weren't given the tools they needed. So you can't expect them to have had given it to you. It sucks. But your job is to make sure if you have a future generation, if you have kids, that you do better and that you give them the tools. And that's a whole nother problem. I just was in this space where I was like, well, as long as they don't see me eat, it doesn't count, right? But that rewired my relationship with food. It rewired my relationship with reality, because not only did I do that to kind of try to relieve myself of the pressure and trauma from my parents, but it also rewired my reality of what I was putting in my body. Unintentionally, I was moving as if the food that I was eating that nobody saw me eat didn't count towards my calorie intake. It didn't hit my thighs or my waistline or my chin or my whatever, right? And so all of these things, this thing started as something that was not necessarily in my control, but there comes a point in every one of our lives where we have to choose to acknowledge the things that happen to us and say, you know what? This is my life. This is my body. This is my energy, and I'm going to take control of it. And so for a long time, I didn't do that, right? And to some degree, it is a privilege to be able to do that. And that's why, to me, it was important for my life's journey to not have children so early, because I want my children to be elite. If I do have children, I want them to be elite. I want them to be the best. And even I can't, no matter how much work I do prior to having kids, if I have them, you know, I'm not gonna get everything right. And so I have to acknowledge that. But I'm definitely going to give them a leg up instead of giving them a start that's way behind everyone else. And bringing children into the world that have to play catch up for years because I didn't get myself together deep down inside. All right. And so that is how my unhealthy relationship, listen, this is something that I literally started to understand this year. When we distract ourselves with children, when we distract ourselves with relationships, when we distract ourselves with friends and hanging out and partying and drinking, we're masking and burying all of these things that's wrong with us, all of these things that are underlying issues that are the real issues in our lives, right? Because in your day-to-day life, white people aren't that big a problem for you, right? What is your problem? That's the question that we have to ask ourselves. What is the problem that is affecting you directly? Because honestly, my argument is that race relations on a day-to-day basis, depending on your life circumstances now, depending on where you are, if I'm being honest with myself in particular, I don't deal with racism all that much, right? I don't deal with a lot of the things that a lot of us have been trained to focus on. We feel like we're dealing with it because we talk about it all the time. But what's really hurting us is our unhealthy eating habits. What's really hurting us is our toxic relationships with our family. What's really hurting us is our toxic codependent relationships with our spouses, with our significant others, our codependency on other people, you know, our lack of ability to even sit in a room alone by ourselves without feeling lonely and without feeling rejected. We don't love ourselves. We don't have so high self-esteem as much as we would like to think, and it shows up in projecting a lot of things on people who have their own struggles. Everyone, including white people. White people may be at the hierarchy of white supremacy, but in terms of health, whatever issues they're going through, it might not be the same issue as yours in certain circumstances, but it's probably taking an equal amount of toll on their physical person, right? Because I think if we are really honest with ourselves, a lot of us we focus on things, whether that is what our communities are doing, for an example. We focus on other things instead of focusing on the things that will help us. The past year and a half, between divestment movements and between leveling up and femininity movements and all these things, I think that a lot of us have spent so much time arguing and bickering with the people who are on the opposing side that we end up giving them the energy that we no longer have for ourselves. And so you're doing the exact same thing that you're complaining about other people doing. Right? I watched this documentary last night on Netflix called, and I may do a separate video on this, but it's called In Our Mother's Garden. And this came out in 2020. I had never heard of this documentary. I searched on YouTube. Nobody talked about this documentary. And if you have time, watch it, because it distinctly talks about the relationship between mothers and daughters in the Black diaspora in particular. But non-Black people can get a lot out of it too, because a lot of things we do experience within our family. We have issues in our own family across the board, across all races and ethnicities. And so that documentary was really good. And it pinpoints a lot of things that we don't, but out of all of this talk we were doing, nobody discussed this. Because we're so busy discussing and arguing with people that are so-called doing things to us, like, you know, the men of our races, or like Black men that's getting popular from dragging Black women. You're so busy trying to argue about that, you're not paying attention to the things that are good. Why are you doing that? That is a form of deflection. It doesn't matter it doesn't matter the reasons. It doesn't matter about you trying to make other women aware. How is it benefiting you? How is it improving your life if you have things to improve, and we all got things to improve? So we can continue to make excuses for the reasons why we're projecting our issues onto other people, while we're projecting our insecurities within our own communities to white people and non-Black people, right? Making everything about race, to the point that, because you know what that's doing is comforting us from admitting from the hurt and the grief it takes to admit that our real problem is us. That our real problem are the people of both genders, of all genders, or non-binary, whatever, in our own community. And so until we get to a place where we can free ourselves from all of these things, we will always be bound. Now, your bondage you may think you are better than a sister soldier. You may think you're better than a social justice warrior because you got on pretty clothes and because you're down talking people of your community, but you're not. You're exerting the exact same amount of energy to this exact same community as they are. except you're delusional enough to think that you're on any kind of separate footing than they are when you're not. Right? So ask yourself when you make decisions, when you do things, ask yourself if this is gonna help you. Ask yourself, is this gonna benefit you? Is this gonna propel you forward? Is this gonna help you get to a higher place, a better place? Free yourself from the shackles of feeling responsible for other people, even people of your own likeness. We can't help everyone. This is a battle that I constantly struggle with, especially with people in my own life. You cannot expect people to understand what they don't understand. When I watch people that I care about take pride in their struggle life and in the poor decisions that they made, I can't help you. It's not my job to help you. My job is to free myself from feeling obligated or from the desire to want to help you, because that's going to exert energy and you're not going to get it, because people get things when they want to get it. People get things when they've had enough or when they really are ready for a change. And if you're taking pride in your ability to raise kids alone, if you're taking pride in your ability to take a punch, if you're taking pride in your ability to be an unhealthy version of independent, that you don't need anybody else in the world, if you're taking pride in your ability to ignore what's going on or to not reflect or to pretend like you have it all together when you don't, nobody can help you. Leave those people, let those people go. Live for yourself. That's it. That's all. I want to thank you all so much for tuning into this video. Share your thoughts down in the comment section. Subscribe and if you haven't already, and consider hitting the notification bell so you'll know every time I upload a new video. And I will see y'all in the next one.